WNBA finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. You know, I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just, you know, it's obvious.
Hello everyone and welcome back to WNBA Core. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today, I've got another exciting and highly interesting video for you, and if you're a true Caitlin Clark fan, you're definitely going to want to watch this one until the very end. Before we get started, let me know you're a dedicated subscriber by commenting CC 100% below. I love seeing all the amazing basketball fans in the comments. Now, without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into today's video. Christmas morning in 2025 was supposed to be the one day of the year when the noise surrounding women's basketball finally quieted down, especially for WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and the executive leadership at league headquarters. A much-needed respite was desperately required by top management following a grueling season defined by relentless headlines, institutional friction, and internal locker room disputes. Even with historic broadcast viewership numbers, league officials urgently needed the national news cycle to shift its focus elsewhere, allowing traditional NFL and NBA holiday broadcasts to dominate public attention. However, at precisely 10 a.m. Eastern, that serene holiday morning was completely shattered by a digital notification that surfaced while families were unwrapping gifts and the broader sports world was just waking up. It wasn't an official league press release, nor did it feature a curated WNBA promotional package. Before we dive deeper into what occurred, if you appreciate this high-level analysis, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to WNBA Core. Believe it or not, over 90% of our regular viewers haven't subscribed yet. It takes just a fraction of a second, costs nothing, but means the absolute world to our channel. So, have you subscribed already? Fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. Now, let's return to the breakdown. What dropped on Christmas morning was a high-production 30-second video posted directly by Nike that would do more to challenge the commissioner's authority than virtually any institutional controversy seen over the past decade. The global, From Anywhere, commercial featuring Caitlin Clark instantly exploded across digital platforms. Insiders report that its sudden release ignited absolute, panic-driven frustration inside WNBA corporate offices. To understand how a single footwear advertisement could provoke such an intense emotional response from top league executives, one must look far beyond the basic sport of basketball and examine the massive power dynamic that has been shifting beneath the league's foundation over the past 2 years. For decades, the WNBA operated under a very specific marketing philosophy: the collective precedes the individual. The organization itself was always promoted as the primary brand. The philosophy of the 144, representing every rostered player as equal, every narrative as balanced, and no individual athlete standing larger than the entity, was continuously reinforced by league leadership. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert championed a heavily centralized approach to sports marketing, treating it as a protective strategy to shield the league from operational volatility. However, when that Nike commercial debuted on Christmas morning, it featured cinematic camera angles, a massive production budget, and high-profile cameos from global cultural icons like Travis Scott, Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce, and Michael Che. It felt far more like an international blockbuster trailer than a standard sports promotion. That advertisement functioned like a sledgehammer to the league's long-standing philosophy. It delivered a loud, unmistakable declaration: there is no balanced 144 dynamic here. There is Caitlin Clark, and then there is everyone else. Witnessing an athlete achieve iconic global status completely outside the league's control or oversight posed a direct threat to the authority of a commissioner who built her reputation on managing every variable within the sports ecosystem. According to sources, league executives spent Christmas Day in emergency phone conferences dissecting the details of the commercial. This was no standard highlight reel composed of game tapes. In fact, if you watch the commercial closely, the official WNBA branding is barely visible, if present at all. The entire 30-second spot focuses exclusively on Caitlin Clark's personal brand identity. It captures her shooting on a snow-dusted driveway, surrounded by elite cultural stars, effortlessly sinking shots from impossible distances. The narrative framing was pointed and direct. The world asks, "Can you make it from here?" And she responds, "From anywhere." It presented her not merely as a roster player, but as an undeniable cultural phenomenon that far transcends the boundaries of basketball. Insiders state that Cathy Engelbert viewed the entire project as a renegade operation. Historically, the WNBA collaborates closely with primary corporate sponsors like Nike to ensure marketing campaigns prominently feature league branding. But in this instance, Nike demonstrated that they do not require the WNBA structure to sell signature products, they only require Caitlin Clark. For a league commissioner, that realization is deeply alarming, the knowledge that your marquee attraction has outgrown the league itself, and major corporate sponsors are fully aware of it. The timing of the commercial added an additional layer of friction to the entire dynamic. To fully grasp the frustration inside the front office, one must look back at the off-season landscape surrounding Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league founded by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. That league was aggressively promoted across the basketball landscape as the ultimate off-season innovation, an equity-based ecosystem designed by players to keep elite talent competing domestically while providing substantial compensation to established veterans. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert publicly threw her full support behind Unrivaled, viewing it as a vital pillar in the broader strategy to expand the women's basketball footprint. Naturally, organizers made every possible effort to recruit Caitlin Clark. Leaked reports indicate she was presented with an unprecedented offer exceeding $1 million for a brief winter commitment, a figure drastically higher than her official WNBA salary structure, mirroring terms usually reserved for global icons like Lionel Messi. And how did Caitlin Clark respond? She politely declined. She turned down the massive payout, opted against continuous media exposure, and chose instead to rest, play golf, and step away from the public spotlight, or so executives assumed. Debuting the "From Anywhere" commercial on Christmas Day, right as Unrivaled was attempting to build media momentum for its January launch, felt like a masterstroke of timing. The established guard had previously implied that Caitlin Clark was missing out by declining the Unrivaled platform, suggesting her absence hindered the sport's collective growth. However, the Nike spot instantly flipped that narrative. The digital analytics revealed the truth. Caitlin Clark's 30-second commercial generated 6 times more views in a single day than the entire Unrivaled roster launch and promotional campaign combined. It was a stark realization for the basketball establishment. It proved that Caitlin Clark did not require external off-season leagues to maintain her cultural dominance, rather, those platforms desperately needed her presence. For Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, watching a corporate shoe ad completely overshadow a major off-season league strategy was devastating. It reaffirmed the reality that broad audiences aren't simply attached to the abstract concept of women's basketball, they are attached specifically to the Caitlin Clark program. That reality strips away managerial leverage, making executive control far more difficult. When an individual athlete holds the keys to public attention, how do you manage or dictate terms to them? This leads directly to the financial contrast exposed by the commercial. A primary duty of the commissioner is to project an image of financial strength, elite professionalism, and luxury. Cathy Engelbert comes from a corporate background, having previously led Deloitte. She understands corporate finance intimately, which makes these metrics even more striking. Seeing Caitlin Clark share the screen with elite NFL stars and international entertainment figures while wearing custom gear in an ad estimated to cost upwards of $5 million stands in sharp contrast to standard league operational realities. That 30-second production had a noticeably higher budget than the vast majority of standard WNBA television broadcasts. Every single viewer was reminded that while Caitlin Clark commands multi-million-dollar deals with global brands like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm, the actual league she plays in provides a rookie salary that wouldn't cover the catering budget for that commercial set. For Cathy Engelbert, this is a public relations nightmare. As she negotiates upcoming media rights and collective bargaining agreements while attempting to position the WNBA as a top-tier commercial entity, this ad airs during major NBA and NFL holiday games shouting the exact opposite. It clearly signals that the primary financial value exists outside the league's central structure. It empowers the Players Association to point at the screen and argue, look at the massive value she generates globally. Why are players fighting for incremental compensation? It makes the central entity appear underfunded and highlights executive inability to capture that market value directly. Reports suggest team owners reached out to Cathy Engelbert demanding to know why the individual franchises aren't capturing a percentage of this massive marketing explosion. The frustration isn't merely personal jealousy, it's fundamental business. The WNBA is being bypassed in the financial loop surrounding its biggest asset, while Nike capitalizes entirely. However, the most dangerous fallout from this commercial is occurring inside team locker rooms, the exact space where executive anxiety is highest. We must examine the Aya Wilson dynamic. Aya Wilson is a 3-time MVP, a champion, and by standard basketball metrics, an elite generational player. She is also a signature Nike athlete. Nike had recently released a promotional campaign for her as well, but the digital space can be unforgiving, and side-by-side comparisons began circulating the moment Caitlin Clark's ad aired. Fans and sports analysts immediately highlighted the stark contrast in production value. Caitlin Clark's commercial was cinematic, moody, high-budget, and culturally expansive, whereas Aya Wilson's ad was criticized by commentators as simple, low-effort, and visually understated. An immediate online narrative formed suggesting that corporate sponsors were prioritizing Caitlin Clark over established veteran stars. Whether that narrative is accurate or not is irrelevant to executive management, what matters is the public perception. This commercial creates a visible rift between top marquee stars and their respective player bases. It reinforces suspicions long held by veteran players that corporate machinery favors specific figures regardless of championship rings or veteran tenure. Cathy Engelbert has spent 2 years attempting to defuse tension regarding hard fouls, on-court physical targeting, and narrative disputes involving Caitlin Clark. This commercial effectively poured gasoline on those existing tensions. How could veteran champions not feel overlooked when witnessing a second-year player receive global cinematic treatment while established stars receive standard marketing packages? This creates resentment, and that resentment inevitably spills onto the court. The commissioner recognizes that if upcoming seasons devolve into physical retaliation because veterans feel disrespected by corporate marketing choices, the product on the floor suffers. It risks escalating dangerous physical play, sparking scandals, and ultimately landing right back on the commissioner's desk. We must also evaluate the intentional choice of cameos in this commercial, which served as a direct departure from traditional WNBA marketing history. Over the past decade, almost every major WNBA marketing push prioritized honoring league legacy, bringing in icons like Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, or Sue Bird to emphasize continuity and pay respect to the pioneers who built the league. In From Anywhere, however, those historical figures were noticeably absent. There was no symbolic passing of the torch, nor any traditional nod to league history. Instead, Caitlin Clark was validated by global figures outside the sport: Travis Scott, Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce, and Michael Che. This was a deliberate strategy by Nike to position Caitlin Clark outside the traditional WNBA boundary, signaling to global audiences that she is an international pop culture figure standing alongside the largest names in global entertainment. For legacy gatekeepers who have been critical of Caitlin Clark's fan base, such as Cheryl Swoops, this approach bypassed traditional league hierarchies entirely. It signaled that her cultural validation doesn't depend on internal league approval, but on global cultural reach. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert understands the danger of this dynamic. She requires veteran alignment and legacy support to maintain institutional stability, but marketing the face of the league as entirely separate from its history creates a stark divide between new fans drawn specifically by Caitlin Clark and traditional fans attached to league history. Furthermore, we must revisit the controversial "Lucky Stars" comments to understand the underlying tension. Reports surfaced previously of a tense meeting where Cathy Engelbert allegedly suggested players should be deeply grateful for the media rights deal secured by leadership. Though she attempted to clarify those remarks, the perception remained that executive management felt the players owed them gratitude. This Nike commercial served as an absolute rebuttal to that mindset. It was Caitlin Clark demonstrating, without uttering a single word, that her value is entirely intrinsic. She draws the viewership, she attracts global sponsors, and she drives the primary revenue engine. The commercial fundamentally shifts the power dynamic. How can leadership demand gratitude for a standard league salary structure when external sponsors are executing multi-million-dollar deals around her? The financial math completely alters the hierarchy. When an athlete reaches a level of cultural draw that exceeds the governing body itself, traditional institutional control evaporates. We witnessed similar dynamics in the NBA with figures like LeBron James, but the wealth gap between Caitlin Clark's external market value and standard league compensation makes this scenario far more extreme. This commercial hints at a long-term strategic threat that keeps franchise owners awake at night, the potential of a complete breakaway. For years, critics questioned whether Caitlin Clark was ready for the league. Now, the magnitude of her global draw prompts a different question: is the league structure large enough to contain her potential? The global messaging of the "From Anywhere" campaign points toward an international reach that traditional domestic setups struggle to match. If future collective bargaining discussions encounter friction, what prevents major global brands, streaming networks, or independent investors from creating international exhibition tours built specifically around her that outdraw traditional broadcast ratings? While that sounds radical, the commercial proves the capital and audience interest exist. If major global brands are willing to invest cinematic budgets into 30-second spots, they will invest wherever return on investment is highest, and right now, that draw centers directly around Caitlin Clark. Finally, we must address the global distribution oversight that also generated intense public discussion. The commercial's theme, From Anywhere, promoted universal, global reach. Yet in an ironic twist that online audiences immediately highlighted, Nike initially failed to make associated merchandise available across international markets. Fans across Brazil, France, Spain, and China flooded comment sections demanding access to products. While this was fundamentally an international retail logistics issue on Nike's end, the frustration ultimately impacted the sport's broader image. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert continuously emphasizes global expansion, discussing potential franchises in Toronto or international games in London. But when the largest marketing push in the sport's history faces international retail delays, it highlights infrastructure limitations that struggle to keep pace with generational talent. Ultimately, this commercial has drawn a firm line in the sand heading into upcoming seasons, fundamentally redefining the balance of power across the sport. Thank you for tuning into WNBA Core. What are your thoughts on Nike's From Anywhere commercial and its impact on the league? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to type CC 100%, hit that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping the sport.